Hi, everybody. Russ from the West Ham Network. Hope you are all safe and well. Can everyone hear me okay? I'm in a strange environment, not a strange environment, in my normal house. Waiting for the washing repair man to just finish. And he has. So that's why we're here nice and early. Hope everyone is safe and well. On what's the day today? Thursday. Okay. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, basically, I was thinking with obviously the transfer window, and we've had time to relax, decompress, and watch David Moyes' interview, all that type of stuff. And I think I did it last for the transfer window in the summer, like looking at everyone in general, looking at everyone in terms of all the different Premier League clubs, who's done good business, give them a rating, give them a scorecard, almost like a score report. And so obviously we'll go through all 20. I'll show you the key ins and outs, not all the ins and outs, because obviously there's lots of youth team players and things like that, and get your opinions as well. So it's going to be as unbiased as possible. I may well compliment Tottenham just to warn people. I'm not a Tottenham fan. I'm not a Tottenham conspirator, but I may well compliment if they've done good business. And obviously, we'll get to our bit towards the end because W is at the end. So let's have a look and see who we've got in the chat, and then we'll crack on. It wasn't a big... No, it wasn't. And actually, when you go through individual clubs, you're right, it's not. It hasn't been a huge transfer window. Indeed, a lot of clubs haven't done any business at all. Not just us, several others. So, yeah, and you're right, maybe the boost is Benny coming back. Where's those straws? I'm clutching? There's here somewhere. And also, if you have a spare hour, please check out our interview with Stuart Downing last night. It was a really good interview. Stuart's a lovely man, very honest. You know, he had some honest opinions in terms of the lack of transfer activity at West Ham. His thoughts on Jesse Lingard, Mark Noble, Kevin Nolan, as well as his own 11. Obviously, he's Hammer's 11. That's what he does. That's what we do in those interviews. A little bit defensive, I'll be honest. He's gone through at the back with wing backs, obviously included a diamond as well. But it was quite interesting. And it's funny, we've had lots of players around we've had Stuart Downing, we had Stuart Slater, we had George McCartney, and they all talk about leaving West Ham and how much, and actually it was probably a mistake leaving, and that's what Downing said. It was a mistake, probably him leaving, going back to Middlesbrough. Hindsight's a great thing, isn't it, with these things? So check it out; it's really, really good. Stell's in there. That's why I'm late. You see, Stell's in it, and I've just got my inner Stell. That's why I was late. Larin does look. He's a very good player, Carl Larin. Still very, very good. Good afternoon, WHU58. Ludders is in the house. Gazza's here. Manos, hope you're well. James, hope you're well. Everyone's talking to each other. It's lovely to see. Only good thing about this week, Russ, brilliant. Luds. The only good thing this week was my interview with Stuart Downing. There we go. Right. Let's crack on. Let's go through. We've got 20 teams to get through, as you well know. Mark, good afternoon to you. Hope you are well, my friend. We'll start with the Gooners. Obviously, and they are the beginning of the alphabet. In terms of their ins, no one in terms of who they got in. But in terms of outs, they got rid of a lot. Some permanent, some loan. So famously, obviously, Aubameyang, who did a Peter Modern Wingley and just turned up to Barcelona, assuming he was going to end up playing for them. Maitland Miles went to join Jose Mourinho at Roma on loan. They had Florian Balogun, who's gone to Middlesbrough on loan. Kolasinac went to Marseille. Hello, Marseille. So you can get players in, but you can't sell us Coletta Car. They also got famously Pablo Mari went to Udinese on loan, and that was the day after they called off their Premier League game for lack of players on their COVID squad. And Callum Chambers went on a permanent to Aston Villa. So they got rid of a lot of players and didn't really bring anyone in, which was a little bit surprising. So in terms, I gave them a C minus, Budden gave them a C minus because I think, particularly with Aubameyang leaving and not replacing him, there's a lot of they're quite thin up top now. They're quite thin up top, a bit like me and various other members of the West Ham Network channel. So yeah, it's a strange one to let that happen, and and it just shows the power of the player. Sometimes, he literally, why couldn't Jesse turn up at London Stadium kicking and screaming like Aubameyang did? Sometimes player power does work a little bit, but yes. Right, okay. Let's move on to Villa. Now, Villa, obviously Gerrard coming in, a lot of financial might as well, lots of power, and I think they did some good business. What they had obviously Coutinho came in on loan from Barcelona, obviously Lucas Digne maybe paid over the odds for him for a 29-year-old, I believe. And they sort of did some stuff as well. So obviously Digne went and they let Taggart go out on loan. Coutinho came in, they got rid of El Ghazi on loan. So it was like one in, one out. And then they got Olsen in from Roma, the goalkeeper, and Callum Chambers on the permanent. So I think they did some good business, really, in all honesty. Not as much as I thought. I thought they did a lot more for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe because everyone was talking about it in so much sort of high esteem in terms of their activity. So I gave them a A minus. I think they're one of the winners of this transfer window. As it was said right at the beginning, as where is it? As Scott said, there wasn't a huge window. It wasn't a huge window. A lot of clubs didn't do a lot of business at all. So there we go. Who else we got in the chat quickly before we move on? Good morning from PCADS. Cold and snowy morning. I think you can only say who won at the end of the season. Very true, PCADS. But this is just immediately, isn't it? Immediately from that. Anton's in the house. Good afternoon, Anton and Neil. Hope you're well, my friend. Your countdown, or your Mikey. Rob's in the house as well. So much information. Anton loves a lot of info. He loves me graffiti slides. What we got here? Did you see that ludicrous display last night? Indeed, from Arsenal. They're always trying to walk it into the back of the net, aren't they? What was Wenger doing? Can't wait for the West Ham transfers heat map. Heat map? You need some spots of heat to have a heat map, surely. If Jesse's on a bonus, he sees that contract. Don't know how it works. I don't know either. But it would have been. I mean, it showed. Aubameyang could do it. I'm sure if you really tried, you could have done it. But who knows? As you said, it may be a case of he gets his loyalty bonus, and it's money in his back pocket as well, isn't it? So what is annoying? Spuds Arsenal didn't do anything. They could have pushed us on for fourth if we did some players. Great. It's a great counter argument, Gaza, to be honest, because obviously we say, "Oh, look at Man United, Arsenal. They didn't do any business," and then we go, "Well, if we did do some business, we would have been there." Totally agree. Totally agree. Right. Okay, let's carry on. Let's go to Brentford. So obviously, the big signing for Brentford was obviously Eriksen on a permanent deal. He was unattached basically. So and they got in Lossell from Midtjylland, the Danish club that they're associated with in goal. So a couple of players in. Force went on to Hull on loan, and Charlie Good went on loan to Sheffield United. So obviously Eriksen's going to get the headlines. I think actually with Brentford, they've done okay. They've got a couple of players in, but also what was quite interesting is Thomas Frank and his assistant Rima. They both signed extensions to their contract, so it's not just sort of on the actual pitch, but on the dugout as well. So they did a good bit of business, I think, this transfer window. Not as much as I thought they would do, but maybe they're in a situation where they don't need to necessarily overspend. I don't think they'll be dragged into the relegation zone, but you never know. I put B plus because it was a good shot. It was a good transfer window, but maybe a little bit more quality, maybe up front as well. But I think that's the same with most of the sort of teams in the bottom half of the league, to be honest. Let's move on to Brighton. Brighton, strange one. I think we were assuming that Bisomu may have gone, and he didn't. So that's good news for Brighton. He's still at the club, despite obviously Villa going in. They let Dat Burn go to Newcastle. Didn't really replace him as a centre back, but they've got enough cover there, arguably. They brought in Kasper Klazowski from Pogon Skrensky, and then load him back. They load him out straight away to Royal Union Saint Gilles. No idea. So they bought it in and sold it back out. And they got Dennis Undav from the same club, Royal St. So I think it's okay. Apparently, this Dennis guy is much coveted as a striker, so they've tried to improve their striker options, and also they extended the contract of Odell Ofire, who is nephew to Martin Ofire. There we go. So not bad, nothing to fill the back pages with. C plus. It was all right. It was all right. Antonio was subbed off yesterday, 60 minutes. Poor reggae boys. Subbed off, hopefully for no injury. Please confirm. Everyone's talking. I wonder if any of the bigger names going to Newcastle have clauses that gives them. I'm sure they all will, to be honest, mate. I'm sure they all will, to be honest, PCADs. Right, let's move on. Next one. Burnley. Pretty much ended the transfer window where they started, in all honesty, I think, in that they had a squad, they sold a striker, and at the end of the transfer window, they bought a striker. And that was it. So they sold obviously Chris Wood to Newcastle for when they activated his release clause. So they were obviously leaving a big hole in the front line. Then they bought on transfer deadline day Weghorst from Wolfsburg. Year younger, I think Chris Wood's 13 and Weghorst is 29. They bought him in for 13 million quid. Sold Chris Wood for 25. So they made a profit. They made a net profit and arguably improved their striking options. Didn't we do much else? There's no improvement in the rest of the team, which really surprised me for someone like Burnley, particularly backed by American owners and things like that. But clearly, isn't making a big impression in terms of the bottom line and in terms of bringing the players in. So C plus because they pretty much started with it would have been a D minus if they'd got someone I think worse than Chris Wood in. But Weghorst I think is better than Chris Wood. They've improved their team, but not massively. One in, one out. Thanks, Mikey. Hope you appreciate it. Jamaica have lost all 3 of their games. What a waste of time, indeed. Right, let's move on to Chelsea. Not much to say about Chelsea in the fact that nothing happened. Nothing in, nothing out, which is a real surprise because obviously Chiswell was out for the season. You thought they're a bit light on that left wing back position. They may have brought in someone they may have gone for Digne, but they didn't. They may have tried to recall Emerson from his loan spell at Lyon, but that didn't happen either. So strange. Clearly Tuchel's okay with his squad. If he wanted a left wing back, he would have got a left wing back. It's not like the money's not there, but he chose not to make any that sort of those sort of changes to his squad. So again, a bit strange, but no, and it's true what Gazza said. Chelsea didn't make no signings. If we made some signings to improve our squad, we may have had a better chance. But Chelsea's the weird one because there is a big gap there, in my opinion, a big gap for that. But Tuchel likes to play players in loads of different positions. He'll probably play Hudson-Odoi left wing back or something like that. God knows, bloody Victor Moses played left wing back for a long time for Chelsea, didn't he? Antonio played right wing back for us. So E, I've put him down for an E because I don't think, because he's obviously trusts the squad enough to not fill that void of the left wing back. So there it is. What we got here? Who thinks Moyes might try and bring in a free transfer out there? Is any strike? The only one there is million is Costa, isn't it? Really available, but yeah, and actually, it's just the same thing. And Tony might be back in time for he might be back in time for Watford. Indeed, he will still. That's the idea. So he won't be playing, obviously, on Saturday against Kidderminster Harriers, but they hope to have him back in time. What we got here? Gazas, he said he wanted players to improve the squad. Perhaps there's maybe he feels will fit him. Maybe Tevez is still available. Bring Tevez back. Right, let's move on. That's Crystal Palace, by the way. Again, not much that they had. There was talk of them bringing in Van der Beek on loan from Man United, but that faded quickly pretty much as soon as Everton entered the frame, to be fair, because he's not, Van der Beek didn't have to relocate to the south. He was, from Liverpool to Manchester's not massive commute, so to speak. So that made sense. And also they were interested in Dele Alli as well, but nothing happened there. Again, when Everton came calling, bigger club in terms of stature compared to Crystal Palace for sure. Despite the fact you've got someone like Vieira there, who would be a real. But then, Man United got Lampard, so comparable in terms of prestige in the Premier League, I'd say. The one thing they did do was they made Jean-Pierre Mateta permanent. He was on an 18-month loan deal, so they made it. They made him a permanent deal. So smart piece of business there, maybe. There was a little bit of recruitment in the summer because they had a lot of turnaround of team members, a lot of that contract, and they brought in people like Eloise and people like that, and Mateta. So they did okay. No key outs, no key ins, to be honest, because he was already an existing player. So C minus. C minus. Good afternoon, John April, my friend. I would have liked signs for sure. It's what's available in terms. Said I get it and agree with. Mate, I'm the same. I can know, it doesn't matter what's been said and lies and dirt and this and that and that. The only piece of evidence we have is that interview by David Moyes. And you might go into conspiracy theorists and but that's who I've got to go with. And I trust the man's word until he breaks it. So that's the way I look at it for me. Anyone else in here? One, and won't sign anyone until sell club and probably flog Rice. I don't think so, dangerous sod. But if they do, there'll be hell to pay, and everyone knows that's the fact. The fact we didn't make any of the loans permanent, does that mean they'll be leaving? Not necessarily, Ludders, not necessarily, because it might mean that he wants more time, because having them on, it's sort of like hire purchase. So I don't call it a loan. It's like a hire purchase, really, because you've got sort of most of them got guaranteed obligation to buy at the end. So it's more like a hire purchase deal than a loan deal. So I don't think so. Arsenal, we put down, I can't remember what I put down for Arsenal. Arsenal I put down as a C minus as well. I put C minus down. Right. Anyway, let's carry on. Next one is Everton. Obviously, busy C transfer deadline day. Really, I mean, they had it was really strange, Everton, wasn't it? They did some right at the beginning when they got Miklenenko and Patterson, two sort of fullbacks, right at the beginning, and obviously Benitez. They got El Ghazi on loan, and then obviously Lamps comes in, and they get Van der Beek on loan and Dele Alli. So, it's they did some. I think they did some good business, considering they've had two managers in that time. Spending near enough, basically what they sold Digne for, really, in terms of they sold one fullback in Digne for 29 million and bought two in with Miklenenko and Patterson. So it's not a bad deal. And as I said, that was the only real out. So they've really, really improved their squad, but they need to, and also it needs to back Lamps as well. So because he was a new manager and stuff like that. So, I was talking to an ex-player the other day, and they were saying, "Oh, we miss Harry in these transfer windows, deadline days." I said he was probably up Everton, helping up Frank, don't you think? Yeah, probably was actually. So I put A minus because I think Everton does some good business. He plays two for one. Someone who's, Digne is going to be, he's entering sort of the twilight of his career, so to speak. He's coming. He's not peak now. He's going to be sort of getting down a little bit. And they brought in two younger players. for that. El Ghazi's a good player on loan. Van der Beek's an excellent player on loan. And Dele Alli on a permanent deal, I think, being the main man at Everton, I think he's going to do really well. Really well. Surprised they didn't look at Lingard, in all honesty, because he would have been a similar thing, in my opinion. What we got here, I think the loan signings do have to prove themselves. I totally agree. You'd think some FX shenanigans going on at Everton. Yeah, but also I think Digne must be on a whack for wage. Because if he's gone to Villa and he's on 100 and something, all the Everton people they signed were on massive. I mean, their wage bill is so ridiculous. It's like the highest to percentage of income. It's something like 90%. I think we're second with 67% or something like that. So they've got huge problems. But that's why obviously the loans for Van der Beek, the loans for El Ghazi, I imagine a lot of that's sort of wages are coming from the parent club. So Miklenko was from Dynamo Kiev, wasn't he? I think so. No, Shakhtar Donetsk, I think. And so I don't think he'd be on massive wage. Patterson from Rangers, again, not huge wages. I'd imagine either. So I think they've probably saved themselves a little bit there without impacting their bottom line too much. Right. Let's have a look what we got here. I'll be happy with 6 again. Fair enough. Buzzing with 6. My preseason bet was 8th. As I said, and I always say this all the time, we've only finished six times in our whole West Ham history. Never done it twice in a row. This would be, if we finish 6th, the first time ever in our history, despite the fact we had 3 World Cup winners in 1966, we had the Boys of '86, FA Cups, we had European Cup Winners' Cups, all these famous teams that we still idolise. No team has got out of that top 6, stayed in that top 6 for 2 consecutive seasons in the top flight. If we did that, that's a massive achievement. It's not just because we didn't get into Champions League, that should not be seen lightly in terms of this achievement. If we got 6th, even if we got in 7th, I think even if we got 7th, there was only once. Yeah, in 98, 99, they were 8th and 5th. So again, huge thing if we could do that. I think people forget that. I think we do. We've had a taste of it, haven't we? We've had a little taste of being in that top 4, and we want to. We've had a taste of it. So it seems like we should have a right to stay there. I don't think it's always the case, but that's just me. Just called out the whole transfer window did my head in. Board basically told Bate, especially him, you can go in the summer. I don't think so, Yardy. I mean, we'll see what happens, mate. In it, we don't know. I don't think so. As I said, I watched Moyes' interview yesterday, and for me, I judge a man. Their word is their bond until they break it, and then I don't trust them. And for me, for him, the way he talks, I really believe that he believed what he said. That's the way I see it. When they have too many for 20-man squad, I wouldn't think so, because I think they had a lot of kids made up in their thing. So must have seen coming the 40 million with all the thingy-jigs. It's not 40 million outlay. 40 million deal, including all the add-ons, which are, he's probably got to score the winner in the Premier League, to win the title or something stupid like that. But I totally agree. Relegation battles are top 6 battles, no brainer. Totally, come on. Exactly. Where do you want to be? Do you want to be in relegation battles, or do we battling top 6, or even top 8? I mean, not even funny. We're one of, we're in that league, aren't we? There's the Premier League. The people are going to win the championship. We're not in that group. That's one of either City, Chelsea, or Liverpool. Realistically, then we're in the next league, really, aren't we? There's us. There's Arsenal, Spurs, Man United, maybe Leicester, but then Leicester not this year, and so those 4, that ain't a bad league to be in, isn't it? We're sort of breaking up that greedy 6, aren't we, really? Right, let's move on to Leeds. I've just put an F because Leeds have done nothing, absolutely nothing. We talk about Moyes being risk averse. Bielsa is so risk averse. They're languishing in the bottom of the league, and they haven't signed one senior player to improve their chances of staying up. You know what I mean? Apparently, he was after Brendan Aronson, who's from Red Bull Salzburg, but Salzburg didn't want to sell. Obviously, they never contemplated our deals for Calvin Phillips, and for Rafinha. But I suppose Phillips, is still injured. Bamford's still injured. So are they risking their these guys coming back to improve the squad? It may be a bit of an issue. I'm not, I have an affiliation with Leeds, but it's very strange. We did at least but we did get it because we need, because we genuinely need. I mean, look at Leeds. Leeds haven't signed anyone, and if they risk it going down, Burnley as well. We'll go for some of the others, but it's a strange one why they haven't improved their squad. Leicester. Now we knew that obviously Leicester did a lot of spending in the summer, so you wouldn't think they'd spend as much. But in the same way that I thought we was going to get one centre back, I thought they were going to try and get a centre back as well. I mean, Fofana got injured and that sort of scuppered their season really. And I think, by all accounts, he's back in pre-season. It's sort of pre-training. But you think they would have maybe got another centre back in. And they didn't let anyone. They released Benkovic, but that was it. So again, nothing from Leicester either. So I put them down as an E because their team hasn't. I mean, where Leeds desperately needed some new bodies in to have a chance of staying up. Leicester are going to sort of languish in that 10th to 12th position, I think. Maybe creep it in the top 10 this season. But I think they've written off this season, to be honest. I think as soon as Fofana got injured, that sort of scuppered what they were trying to plan to do. And the signings they brought in, I mean, we were really interested in Daka, weren't we? Patson Daka. He hasn't set the world alight since he's signed. So sometimes, and we did a thing last time when we had I looked at some of the guys we were linked with last season and showing how well they've played or how well they haven't played. And apart from Tammy Abrahams, really, not much else have done. Had some bad injuries at the wrong time, indeed. Villa and Burnley did pretty well in the transfer. Burnley not. I don't think Burnley have done enough. Personally, they had to buy in a forward because they sold a forward. They got a better forward, another 12 million quid in the bank, but I think they didn't do enough. I don't think they've done enough. Let's move on. Liverpool. So Liverpool, I mean, it looked like it was going to be quite a quiet sort of transfer for Liverpool, and then obviously Spurs got a fee for Luis Diaz accepted, and they went right. Okay, we were going to buy him in the summer, but we'll just buy him now. So brilliant. They got the money in the bank. They had the foresight to get in early, which was great. Which shows planning. We look at this from a total neutral perspective. They had the money on the hip to buy the player ready. So they'd already planned to get him in the summer. They'd scouted him for the summer. Tottenham was sniffing in him. We're getting in there first. Shows real aggression, and that was really good. As you said, Klopp was looking to get him to the summer anyway, and that may have buying Diaz now may have put a little thing in Salah's head. He was looking to leave, and actually. It's almost like they've got his replacement ready. Is he going to stick around? Who knows? Obviously, due to time constraints, they didn't get the deal for Cavallo through Fabio Cavallo from Fulham. So maybe they'll look at that. Maybe we'll look at that now. Maybe we can look at doing a signing in the summer on a free. Who knows if Fulham don't go up, possibly. In terms of outs, a couple of loan signings out. Nat Phillips went to Bournemouth, and again, that's one of those things where if January we were interested in Nat Phillips, then to go on loan to Bournemouth, if we'd got in and offered them 13, 15 million quid, they would have taken it, surely. So were we ever really in for Nat Phillips? Who knows? And also Nico Williams went to Fulham on loan. Bournemouth did some bloody good business this transfer window. I know they're not in here, but they did some bloody good business. Russ, I have to mention Tammy. I'm being transparent. I'm going to be totally transparent. As long as Zuma don't get injured, I think we can cover the rest. I totally agree. They've also been without Mane and Salah. They have, and they've managed to do all right. So by bringing Diaz now, that's not a bad front. They've still got Jota. Is Firmino still? He was injured. Is he back? I don't know, but they've got some good players. So B- for Liverpool, because not necessarily the amount of players, but the way they did the activity, where they went, right, okay, Tottenham going to want to buy him? No, sod that, fuck that, bosh. I like that. Let's go to Man City. Man City straight, again, reasonably quiet, but obviously only one piece of major business, which I'm gutted about, because I would have really liked some West Ham instead of Julian Alves from River Plate. He's a real generational player. He'll be the next Aguero. He'll be the next name that comes through into world football, without a doubt. He's a very, very good player. Although he won't join until the summer. So they've bought him, but he's still at River Plate until the summer. So, I mean, obviously, he famously said that he doesn't necessarily need a centre forward, and he's got a centre forward. So, but not till the summer. So clearly, he thinks he's got enough for this year to win the title. So maybe with Alves, I mean, he's 22. Maybe in the summer they could be looking to get a forward in. Maybe Haaland. Maybe, who knows? Obviously, he's a prime target for them. Outs, Ferran Torres went to Barcelona for about 50 million. So again, a strange one, because he was obviously getting a lot of game time, but it is what it is. And Taylor Harwood-Bellis went to Stoke City. So they made their money. They made a profit. They bought Alves for 20 odd million, and they sold Torres for about 50 million to Barcelona, the team who had no money. And they also got Aubameyang, the team who had no money. And they got Adán Traoré, the team that had no money. Don't get it. What was his was due to time restraints, who was going to be resting the team tomorrow. Yeah, exactly. Alves is going to be a legend. I totally agree. He's a great player. Fantastic player. Let's move on. B-, because again, but there's planning involved, and I like it when you see some planning involved. Some clubs are fortunate enough to have the luxury to plan. I don't think we do. I think we're still quite reactionary when we do sign people at the moment. But that will change. I know that will change eventually. Man United. Again, strange one with United. You thought with Ranić coming in and his knowledge of the German league and stuff like that, he would have got a lot of those through the door. Or some good players, some Bundesliga players, some good ones in, but nothing came through. I think the fact is, because he's on this 6-month contract, they don't obviously want to give him enough money to do anything. So it's from an outsider's perspective. So none have gone in. He had a bit of a clear out. Axel rather, he went to Napoli on loan. Martial went to Sevilla on loan. Diallo went to Rangers on loan, and Van der Beek went to Everton. Obviously, Jesse Lingard didn't go on loan, which scuppered our plans. But he got rid of 4 players, didn't really bring anyone in. So that, you got to think, is that a really wise thing to do? He didn't. There's no backup. They're still in they're competing with us for top 4 finish. Apparently, they're still in the FA Cup. They've got the Champions League as well. Strange one, very strange one. I think why no one came in. So D-, because you've got rid of some players who are great squad players, and we know that the strength of their squad beat us when we played them in the Premier League before the winter break, because that was the difference. We matched them on 11-11 on the pitch, but as soon as they had the ability to bring on Martial, Cavani, Rashford, that's when it made a huge difference. He was my shout. Man City got him 70 million, could have got anywhere, but out of league. I think so, Mark. It wasn't necessarily the price tag, but it was who we were competing with, because I think the type of player he is, he will be, I don't want to say Messi-esque, but he's going to be that, he's going to be a generational player, a player of a generation. And 70 million quid's not a risk for someone who can do that. If it doesn't work out, they could sell him for 20 million quid. I mean, Torres started to play a lot of games, before basically Barcelona came in and laid down 50 million quid. Newcastle, why mum? Why pen? Now, strange, I think. A strange one for Newcastle. And I think some Geordie fans will be happy and a lot will be disappointed, because obviously the fanfare that came in with the Saudi money and Eddie Howe coming in, you think he's a good guy in terms of nurturing future talent and things like that. And they've strengthened in some areas. Obviously, they got Trippier on loan. That's a permanent. That should be loan. Sorry, my fault. Trippier on a permanent. Chris Wood's on a permanent. They got Bruno on a permanent. Dan Burn on a permanent. And Target on a loan randomly. So they brought in 5 players, and they've strengthened centre back. They've strengthened the fullback, the centre forward, and central midfield. So they've got sort of one for each position, plus the left back as well. I mean, with Bruno, I'm sure someone said they probably all have. They all have relegation clauses in their contracts because of the predicament they're in, but they didn't get the big names, did they? They were after Botman, they were after Diego Carlos, they were looking at Issa Diop. They didn't get any sort of people that people know of, really. So Trippier, he's 30 odd now. He's coming to the end of his career. So this was his last move. Same with Chris Woods. Good Premier League players. Bruno's the only one. I mean, Bruno is a special player, but I don't know how he's going to work with a relegation battle, in all honesty. And again, they took out Bournemouth, got Freddie Woodman on, great goalkeeper on loan, and they got and then they sent old Hendrick, and they sent him to, was it QPR? Yeah, to QPR on loan. So okay, I mean they got bodies in, but I think apart from maybe the midfield, have they really sort of gone to the? I mean, that's basically gone to the next level for me. That midfield now with Bruno, because he's a very good player. So I put C-. Yes, it looks like they got players in, but I would be very disappointed if I was Newcastle fan with all this sort of activity that's got him, because there's not really. It's a bit scattergunny. And I can see why he's got some people in. But obviously, they didn't get Jesse. They didn't want to do business with him. Man United with Newcastle. It might be something to do with the anti-Newcastle thing that people have because of all the money. I don't know. Now let's go to Norwich. Norwich now. I mean, to be honest, at the beginning, when they basically said that they weren't going to have any transfer incomings, which was strange. I think they said that literally in that September, October time. So we did some business, and obviously they then had a different manager as well, and that turned out to be genuinely accurate. So it's. I mean, I don't remember seeing any players linked to Norwich in the whole of January transfer window, considering we had over 100 ourselves. It's a strange one. I mean, there was no ins, no outs. And then the strange one was Bournemouth, again, fair play to Bournemouth, getting Todd Cantwell on a loan with a permanent option in the summer. His contract runs out in the summer. See, and that's the interesting thing. And not a lot of people picked up on that. Apparently, it's a loan deal with an option to sign him permanently in the summer. So why do that? I thought Todd Cantwell, I could, obviously he's available on a free transfer in the summer. Would have been a nice little player at West Ham, surely. And I, it's a really strange one. Obviously the Scott Parker factor at Bournemouth is playing off there. But you think Dean Smith and Grealish at Aston Villa became that partnership, and I could really have seen Todd Cantwell having that relationship with Dean Smith, but clearly not. So I put him down as an F. It's going to be very interesting at the bottom, and I'm glad I'm not involved in it at all as a West Ham fan. If they keep Newcastle up, I'm sure they'll be happy with all that they've got brought in, but they haven't brought loads in. I think the summer will almost, I wouldn't be surprised in the summer, whatever happens, the manager will go and they'll bring in a new manager and, things lined up personally. Because I can't see Eddie Howe being the type of manager who'll inspire the likes of Mbappe. I know they're not going to buy Mbappe, but you know what I mean? And that's where they obviously want to be. They had a good. We should have got. I think they priced us anyone out of Kelly because they're trying to get back into the Premier League, and they've done really good business. I think Russie, yeah, he did. Yeah, Benico Boatley. I remember I wrote it up on the older ticker. Gone to Brighton. He went to Porto. I was really sad to see him leave. He was one of the ones who sort of the generation before sort of the Odebeku era, so to speak. They have. For me, it looks like I personally think that Norwich have already condemned themselves to the Championship next year. That's the way it looks to me. Is how they're to keep them up, and then he'll go for a big name. I think they want a big name manager. I think they do. I think it's the boss. They pay all his money for the club. I personally, I think he's a safe pair of hands. But I mean, Pochettino's going to be leaving PSG. I know he'll probably go to Man United, but Mourinho's already made rumblings how he's always had an affection for Newcastle because of Bobby Robson, who was his mentor. So who knows? Parker always gets top man. Scott Parker was top player for us. Southampton. Nothing for Southampton. They were looking, there was talks of maybe making the Brozier deal permanently, but no, they've been told they had to wait to pull off any deal. Who else? Who else they signed? I'm just looking. They signed. No, they just no one really. No one of any worth. A 16-year-old defender arrived from Cheltenham for 200 grand. But that's it. For me, Southampton are safe this season. They've almost written off this. I remember we had Mike from Matchday Vlogs, a Southampton fan, and he makes a point that basically Southampton seem to write off seasons quite early on. They get reasonably safe and they'll write it off. And he was like saying last season they wrote it off, and this season it's almost like they're writing off the season again. Indeed, guys, I totally agree. They're a very strange team. So I gave them an E because they didn't really need to improve anywhere to maintain their their position. Really, they're sort of stuck there. So yeah. Right, let's go to our friends at 3 Point Lane. Now, I think Conte would have liked to splurge on more than maybe two players, and that was evident. Obviously, famously he went to he tried to get the Traore, he rejected him. The non-league guy from Lewis, he rejected them. A lot of people got rejected Tottenham, but he got to him, and I think he got two good players in. He got Rodrigo in on a permanent from Juventus, Bentancur, and he got in Kulusevski on loan from Juventus as well. So, a very tricky wing is Kulusevski's a good player. Rodrigo's a good midfielder. And, he knows the Italian league. He knows Juventus. And so these two, he would pin his colours to. Makes it's, from a new manager coming in, particularly like Lampard bringing in Van der Beek and Dele Alli, you sort of pinning your colours to these guys as your guys, in the same way that when Big Sam came in, the first thing he did was bring in Kevin Nolan. Do you know what I mean? And then he got rid of a lot of deadwood, so to speak, or guys you won't be playing. And Ndombele went to Lyon on loan. Gil went to Valencia on loan. Lo Celso went to Villarreal on loan. And Dele Alli, obviously, that's not a loan, that's a permanent deal, Roman. My apologies. So got rid of a lot of players, very similar to, almost like this is my era now. And so I reckon you'll be seeing a lot of that churn in the next couple of transfer windows. In a similar way to us, we're just getting to the end of the churn period from the Pellegrini era, with people like Yama and Masu, coming. Hopefully they'll be going and their contracts are going to be running up. We're coming to that end of the cycle. That's a trouble, particularly with like Everton and people and Villa and people like that who have chopped and changed their managers a little bit. You end up having a player that 3 managers that was signed 2 or 3 managers ago. So, there's no worries you don't fancy him, so to speak, in your team. So Spurs have put B-. I think they want to do a lot more business, but they're Spurs. No one likes them. Simple. Watford. Now, Watford's another one. It's difficult when you have, Roy Hodgson comes in the 25th, 26th of January, so hasn't really got much to make an impact with. And Ranieri was trying to make a difference before he then obviously left. And they brought in some players. They brought in Okoye from Sparta Rotterdam. They'd loaned him back to Sparta Rotterdam. He brought in Kamara from Nice, Samir, who I think is a fantastic player for Moody. There's a left-footed centre-back. We actually featured him in one of our shows a while ago as a possible. Kiembe from Epping, not Epping, Epping, and Kalou from Bordeaux. They signed 6 players, all in all, 5-6 players, 20 million quid. They've had a go. Do you know what I mean? They're trying to shore up that defence more than anything, I think. But it is. Watford are another straight they are. Who won? Who cares? It wasn't us, Lauren, indeed. But we're looking at this subjectively, my friend. We're looking at it subjectively because it's good to look at, because I find it interesting. It's great having blinkers on, West Ham blinkers. But if we see what else is looking at, we go, okay, just so we know where we stand in the water. So Watford, I gave a B- because they're giving it a go. Norwich haven't given it a go. Leeds haven't given it a go. But at least Watford are giving it a go. West Ham. Obviously, here we had and I think Gaza mentioned, Man United haven't invested. Arsenal haven't invested. Chelsea haven't invested. It was an opportunity, if we did invest, to improve our squad while the others didn't improve their squad. If anything, Man United has diminished with getting rid of lots of their squad players like Van der Beek and Martial and a lot of their options. So it was frustrating. We all know it's frustrating. No business done. I think it's the first time under GSB that we haven't signed anyone. It may be one of the first transfer windows ever we haven't signed anyone. Someone will definitely know that, but I'm just putting it out there. Nothing to see, move on. So, obviously we were one of the losers. F, and that's from my perspective, not from David Moyes' perspective. The flip side is we didn't sell Bowen. The squads, we've got Benny back from AFCONs. We've only got bloody Ogbonna injured. The squad is wafer thin, or paper thin, or wafer thin. And we've already spoken about it. Everyone's spoken about it, widespread. So I'm not really going to get into much about it, to be honest. I listened to Moyes' interview yesterday, and that's the only evidence we've got in terms of what happened. And he said several times it was on the decisions were down to him. So there we go. So F. And lastly, Wolves. Now, he clearly identified some areas he wanted to improve on. He wanted to get a winger in because maybe he wanted to get rid of Traore. Traore was going, apparently. He wanted to. So he did that. He got Chicharito now. He got him out. And then Traore came in. He got rid of Traore, brought Chicharito in. Traore rejecting Tottenham to go to Barcelona for £15,000 a week, where Tottenham were offering 100 something a week. And they, again, similar to Crystal Palace and Mateta, they secured the permanent signing of Huang Hee-chan, who was a player that we were looking at in the summer, weren't we? And then they recalled Gomez from his loan spell at Grasshoppers. So they got extra centre back they wanted. They got Tissue, they got the winger, they got the forward. So they went out 3 positions, they got them, which was fair play to them. So C plus, because I think Cicciolino, Traore, the jury's out if that's a good deal. I like Traore as an impact player. Hwang, they already had Hwang, so there wasn't really an upgrade there because they already had the player, but they made him permanently, made him their player. Sometimes that's not always the best thing to do, because the amount of times we've had loan players and then sold them, we bought them rather, the parent club sold them to us, and they've been shit. And then they haven't done so well. It happens quite often with us. So Gomez was their own player, but they recalled him. And that's it. That's it. All the 20 clubs, and then in the championship, Bournemouth won the championship with some the championship sort of transfer window with some cracking loan signings: Todd Cantwell, Nat Phillips, and Freddie Woodman. Not bad at all. Not bad at all, my friends. Anyway, what was what we got here? Leeds didn't have to sell it, and there was no drama other than from the fans. And that's how sort of Moyes said it, really, didn't he, to be honest? Chance of any loans coming, well, they're not coming in now because the transfer window's shut. There's loans going out. They can still loan out to championship players and teams outside of the Premier League, I believe. But no coming ins now for the summer. At least it's free transfers. If West Ham finish 6th and splash the cash, it's the best thing in the best interest of the club. Well, as we know, we've got a big rebuilding job. And I think Stell mentioned it yesterday and called it the biggest squad rebuild job that we've ever had to do in our history. And that's probably about right. Maybe 2002-03 season, when we went back down to the championship, we went down. That was a bit of a rebuild, then we had that was almost like a hard refresh, because then they had to get in the likes of, obviously, all the big money earners. Defoe went, we had David James went, all those types of people. Glenn Roeder went, God rest his soul. They brought in Neil Mellor and people, David Connolly and stuff like that. And a real big churn of players then potentially. And then maybe the season we went down and Big Sam came in, there was a lot of player sort of churn, wasn't there? You had the likes of Papa Bouba Diop, God rest his soul. You had Abdoulaye Faye. You had people like that coming in. Kevin Nolan coming in. Anyway, everybody, thank you very much for joining us. As I said, if you have any spare time today, can I point you to Stuart Downing's interview yesterday, last night? What a lovely, lovely man. They're all lovely, our ex-player interviews, but he was a lovely man, very open, very honest, lots of interesting stories, lots of interesting takes on like Jesse Lingard saga and things like that, and a very interesting Hammers 11 as well. What we got here first, it'll be massive program. As I said, I always say it. Finishing 6th again, that'd be the first time ever in our history we have finished in the top 6 of the top league ever. That includes winning the World Cup in 1966, the European competitions, winning them, boys of 85, 86, all those types of things. This is what progress is for me. It's having not this one decent season in 6. That's what we tend to have. We tend to have these one decent seasons in 6. Like, where is it? I'll show you the other one. It is literally every sort of 6 years, apart from the 2002 to the 2016. It's literally every 5 or 6 years, it seems, we have a decent season and we finish in the top 8, maybe. Consistency for me is going to be maintaining a top 6, top 7, even top 8 finish at the beginning. Yeah, and that's the benchmark. That to me is progress. It's not about necessarily getting to Champions League this year. Christ, 2 years ago we were on the verge of going down until Moisey came in. So, for me, it's about maintaining league position, maintain that, and building on it gradually. This is a project. It took Moisey something like 10 years of Everton to get into the Champions League properly. You know what I mean? And even then, I think he got knocked out of the qualifiers. But regardless of the fact, he was getting to the Europa League, getting to the Europa League, that being sort of the minimum requirement, and then building on that, getting the prestige, and I mean, one of the things, when you look at, this year, and you look at the types of people that we bring in, or we've tried to bring in. Yes, this is the first year where we haven't brought in anyone, and I think I'm not. This is not me saying, "Oh, I love JSP." No, it's not at all. But objectively looking at it, I haven't counted, but maybe a third of the Premier League didn't buy anyone. Maybe a little bit more than that. COVID's come in, and there hasn't been. Usually there's a lot of movement, but there's not a lot of movements, and that makes a huge difference as well because of the new protocols that have been brought in as well. So they need to have a big squad. They need to have a squad they can use and rely upon. And people aren't going to sell until they buy. I ain't buy until you know what I mean. And thirdly, we're fishing in a bigger pool now. We're fishing in a different pool. Where we were a relegation team or maybe a bottom 10 side, we could go to Man United and we'd have probably got Jesse Lingard. Man United probably didn't think last year we were going to do a Jesse. We were going to be where we still were. After West Ham, we go down after Christmas with the decorations go down. That's always what my granddad used to teach me for years and years to come. And so maybe the caliber of people we're trying to get is higher, and so it's, I don't know, but it pissed me off. It pissed everyone else. I know it did, but hey, we can't do nothing about it now, can we? We've got the season now to do it, so we just got to get up behind the team and see what we can do this season. And in the summer's going to be a different, and Sam made a good point, and still reiterated it yesterday that the season starts in early July, so the building for the summer is starting now. It has to start now, because otherwise you're not going to have a team by the end of you have a squad with so many players out. I know Stell's going to do a show about that. There's a load of free transfers. I did a thing a few weeks ago, all the free people in their last 6 months of their contracts and stuff like that. Loads. There's about 50 decent ones. We did all that, so go back and check that out. It'll be all good. Anyway, everybody, what we got here? Happy with 10th in Europa Cup. Be nice. Finishing 4th, winning the FA Cup, be lovely, Steve, wouldn't it? Wow, I'll take all of them. If you finish 4th and then win Europa League, that would mean that yes, and win the FA Cup. That would probably scupper the 5th place to get into the Champions. We'd lose the Champions League spot, I think. No one. We'd still have 4 spots. The only time we would lose that 4th spot was, say, we won the Europa League and we finished outside the top 4. The 4th place team would then not qualify for the Champions League, because that's what would happen. Not asking for much, indeed. Heard that Snoddy's available. At least you know you get great team player. Honestly, squad player, great around the squad. Really was Snoddy, really was. Can you see the Irons finishing between any higher will be a bonus? I think 6 is more than achievable, and that would be a hell of a thing for us. Would be a great season. Would be a fantastic season. I made it nearly 50%. Bought no one. There we go. Nearly right. We all know Jesus not put any more money into the club until they sell. It was just the beginning. Maybe, lads. Maybe we don't know. Realistically, I don't know. No one really knows. I can only go by what my manager, the manager who I back, not the board, I back the manager, he says. And so that's the only proof we have to go with, really, in all honesty, isn't it? So, and it's about getting behind the team now, isn't it? And trying to finish the season as strong as we can. We may fluke it. We may not get any injuries, and we may fluke it. A bit like we did last year. We did all right until just then when the wheels came off a little bit with Deck. I know we didn't lose too many, but the wheels came off a little bit. But anyway, Anyway, everyone, if you enjoyed it, give it a like, give it a comment, give it a share, give it a subscribe, hit the bell icon so you don't miss any content. We'll have previews tomorrow. We'll have the preview for the Kidderminster game. I think tomorrow lunchtime I might do an FA Cup quiz to get us in the mood. Yeah, we need a quiz, something a bit of fun. So we might do an FA Cup quiz tomorrow. So make sure you join me at 12:30. And there might be a daily show. Who knows? We don't. That's why we've got to hit the bell icon so you may be anytime we put new content on. I think we ended up having 3 shows yesterday because of the Davy Moyes interview as well. But anyway, take care, everyone. Stay safe, wash those hands, come on your irons. And also, thanks to all our channel members. And I'd like to thank you all personally at the end of my shows. Take care, my friends. Have I got the video? There it is. Bye-bye.
It's like a family tree, part of you and part of me. And if we should separate,